starting to heat up, ladies and gentlemen, and one of the most creative scorers in the W.
Starting to go on a rampage here. They've cut it to 5.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic and Everything Chicago Sports Related Podcast. It is currently September 11th, 2023, a very gloomy and rainy day in Chicago, as it should be, rightfully so. There is so many positive things we could talk about on today's show. The Chicago Cubs have called up number one prospect, Pete Crow Armstrong. The Chicago Sky, despite all odds, despite all adversity, finished the season 18-22 and will be facing off against Candace Parker and the Las Vegas Aces in the first round of the WNBA playoffs. The Chicago Bulls haven't disappointed me. Connor Bedard is still a Chicago Blackhawk, and the Chicago Cubs are in a playoff push. But we can't discuss any of that because right now the only thing I'm looking at is probably the worst Bears game I have ever seen in my entire life. We're doing our breakdown today's show on the All Sports All Plays Network. I hope you guys are tuning in now. If you're new to the channel, if you're watching this on TikTok, wherever you're watching it, sit down. We're having a therapy session. We're going to talk about it, talk about everything that went wrong, talk about everything that was the fuck show that was yesterday. Absolutely horrible. I felt like I was watching Madden and I'm playing against my little cousin who's afraid to throw the deep ball. Like, the game was so horrible that even my own mom, who I'm not going to say her age on here, but who has been a Bears fan for a very long time, was even like, this is just horrible. You know, it makes you not want to watch them. It makes you not want to watch them. There were so many things that didn't go right, but there were even more things that went wrong. Like, it was awful. Chicago Bears lose to the Green Bay Packers, and Jordan Love in his first start as the Green Bay Packers quarterback going into a season 38-20. And that 20 is a generous 20. I mean, we had our pregame prediction show. If you guys were here watching, we even said the Chicago Bears are winning this game. What did I say? 28-17. That's where I was at. And the complete opposite happens, 38-20. We're going to go through some stats really quickly before we get into the game and talk about everything that happened. Really quickly, if you're new here, hit that follow button. It definitely does help us out a lot. If you have already hit it, welcome to the community. But breaking it down, Jordan Love on the day finishes with a 60% completion rate. So does Justin Fields, which isn't the story that they're going to tell, but it's exactly what it was. 15 for 27, 245 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Rushing wasn't very productive, but he was absolutely great when they needed him to be there in the red zone. They were 100% in the red zone, 100% on third downs. I mean, they were just absolutely incredible at finishing and just being the best version of themselves offensively. Justin Fields, 24 for 37. Mind you, a guy who started 8 for 10, a great at passing in the beginning. You were very excited what you saw from Justin Fields. You saw a guy who looked composed. You saw a guy who looked poised. I mean, he just looked like he was the best version of himself very early on. And then we never saw anything graduate from that. Everything was just the same. Screen pass. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. He was 24 for 37, 216 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 1 interception that led to a pick 6. Rushing, he was 9 for 59. So we didn't really get to see Justin Fields, the passer, and we really didn't get to see Justin Fields, the rusher. He just kind of looked like a shell of himself. We're going to break that down in more in a little bit. From a rushing perspective, Aaron Jones, who I had in fantasy. So I was very bipolar yesterday, man. I was on my Kanye West shit because I felt Yeezy. I felt Yeezy because I didn't know whether to cheer. I didn't know whether to be upset. Aaron Jones, 9 for 41 with a rushing touchdown. And from a passing perspective, he was 2 for 86 for another touchdown. Aaron Jones was the Green Bay Packers player of the game, but Romeo Doubs stepping in for Christian Watson, who was inactive during this game, was also phenomenal with 4 for 26 and 2 touchdowns in the red zone, connecting with Jordan Love. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers said that last year, how adamant he was about how popular and how great Romeo Doubs could be. He actually favored Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson earlier in the year, saying Watson still has a lot to learn. So we knew that both of those guys are going to be electric when they do get out of here. It's going to be interesting. The Green Bay Packers finished with 4 sacks on the day, 1 interception and a pick 6. Whereas for the Chicago Bears, from a rushing perspective, let's get back into the Bears talk. You know, you have Fields 9 for 59. You have Khalil Herbert 9 for 27. Roschon Johnson 5 for 20 and a rushing touchdown. Foreman didn't look great. Herbert really didn't look great. Roschon Johnson, we're going to get into that in a little bit, looked phenomenal in the spurts that we saw him in. From a passing perspective, we saw Darnell Mooney 4 for 53 and a touchdown, the only touchdown from the Chicago Bears through the air. Cole Kmet 5 for 44. Khalil Herbert 3 for 37. Roschon Johnson 6 for 35. DJ Moore 2 for 25, and they were back-to-back plays. Did not see DJ Moore the rest of the game. Absolutely horrible. And Tyler Scott gets his first reception as a Chicago Bear, 2 for 14. Yannick Ngakoue was the only sack of the day. 0 interceptions. Kyler Gordon got banged up. Obviously, Eddie Jackson got banged up. Or not Eddie Jackson, pardon me. Jaquan Brisker got banged up. And just it did not look great on all cylinders. Nate Davis looked awful. Darnell Wright looked pretty solid, but there were a few things and a few takeaways. I think I can look at this right now. First and foremost, we're going to take 2 of the only positives. 2 of the only positives. I want everybody ready for it. You guys let me know if I'm being too optimistic or too generous, because today is not a day where we're going to be very generous. The Chicago Bears had 6.5 sacks as a defense last year. 4.5 of them were from Jaquan Brisker. We're more than halfway there, boys. Yannick Ngakoue with the first sack of the year. Okay, it's not going to be as bad as 2022. Maybe that's the only positive. And even somebody in the comments right now says no positive. Exactly. You got a sack in this game is the only positive I can take from this, and it's because of how bad they were at the pass rush last season. I mean, getting after the quarterback just wasn't a thing. So to see Yannick actually being, a cornerstone piece of his defense, I was excited about that. Tremaine Edmonds looked pretty solid. TJ Edwards didn't disappoint me. So, there was a few things I saw. Tyreek Stevenson looked great. But other than that, man, I mean, there is nothing positive to talk about. And that was kind of just a joke about the sack thing. I really don't give a fuck at this point. But I will say the only other positive that we're going to be talking about is Roschon Johnson. I do believe by mid-October he is going to be RB1. I think we all kind of felt that way, and we all kind of understood that it was kind of his job to take. He looked great in the spurts that we saw him. He was absolutely bulldozing people. You love to see it. And it's just one of those things where, through time, he's going to be one of the better running backs on this team. And I'm really excited to see what the future could potentially be with him. Really quickly, though, I do want to point out that it's kind of wild to me that we only saw him in the second half of the game. Kind of like they just didn't believe in him in the first half and they didn't expect to really utilize him. You could say it's because they want to slowly wean him in. I just saw Bijan Robinson absolutely cook the Carolina Panthers, so I don't want to hear that. Jahmyr Gibbs was going against Kansas City Chiefs and the defending champs. No problem. So I don't want to hear any of that. You know what I mean? Like the game plan was just awful. And that's where we're going to start in today's episode. We're really just going to break down what we saw, how we feel about this. I mean, the reality of the situation is this. There's 3 key points that I took from yesterday's game. When we talk about what happened, when we talk about how it broke down and really what we saw, it all starts with Luke Getsy. I said it from day one. We sat up here and had conversation. We all talked about it. Who should the Chicago Bears hire at the head coaching spot after Matt Nagy? I said, you got to go offense. You got to go offense because time and time again, we do this thing where we say, as Bears fans, and even the McCaskey family, they go up there and they'll sell you this pitch of, listen, this was what George Halas built. This is the house he built. We pride ourselves on defense and running the ball and defense. Like, I'm sorry. We can't do this anymore. Like, we can't just sit up here and say that we're going to build a great defense and run the ball and we're going to win a Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry. It's not. That is the reality of the situation. That is the reality of what we're doing and what we're going through right now. The reason that, hey, Mitchell Trubisky wasn't the guy. We knew that. You know what I mean? We knew that kind of very early on. But we said, listen, maybe we can get away with it. We couldn't. And you know what? The big part of that is because we pride ourselves on defense. We put all the money in the defense. We build our line. We don't touch our offensive line. We give a very lackluster amount of weapons. And that's how we go about it. And when you hire Matt Eberflus instead of a guy like Brian Daboll or John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh, whichever, the Michigan, Jim Harbaugh or whoever, an offensive-minded guy, Jim Caldwell, all these guys, and you take a defensive coordinator who's not even calling plays currently. It's Alan Williams. And that's he needs to be held accountable for that as well, because the defense looked like shit. It's a conversation to where, how is Justin Fields going to get better? Who's going to be in his ear? This is all I saw yesterday. Luke Getsy, all he did in Green Bay, along with Nathaniel Hackett, was hold Aaron Rodgers' jockstrap, and they got NFL jobs because of it. One got a head coaching job and is arguably viewed as the worst head coach to ever coach in the NFL in the history, in Nathaniel Hackett. And then there's Luke Getsy, who allowed Justin Fields to throw the ball more than 10 yards 3 times yesterday. We threw the ball over 10 yards 3 times yesterday. The rest of the game was fucking screen passes. Screen pass, screen pass, screen pass, run, punt. I felt like it was Mark Trestman of 2013. I felt like it was Matt Nagy of 2021. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, you can't listen. Last season, I said this. I don't believe in Luke Getsy. I haven't seen enough from him. All I really saw throughout that 7-game stretch to where we were averaging 30 points as an offense a game. As an offense, we were averaging 30 points a game. All I saw from those 30 points was Justin Fields making scramble plays on his own. That's the reality. And we got good breaks. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it was. There was no game plan. There was no preparation. And when Mooney went down and Claypool didn't look like he was picking up the system, and all you had was Pringle, Pettis, and Bayless, I understood there wasn't a lot to work with. We had Cole Kmet. That was really it down the stretch. That was really it. And he looked great down the stretch. He didn't look horrible yesterday either. But when you go into this season and you're the offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears and your GM has the greatest offseason, arguably, in the history of the franchise, gives you a number 1 bona fide wide receiver in DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Tyler Scott, Chase Claypool, a full season now in the system, and then Cole Kmet, Robert Tonyan, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert, Justin Fields, a new offensive line, all the toys in the world, Deontay Foreman. And you threw the ball over 10 yards 3 times and only targeted DJ Moore twice, and they were back-to-back plays. The highlight of the game for DJ Moore was when he punched Alexander or Savage or whoever it was, the Green Bay Packers defenseman, and he punched him and knocked him on his ass. That was my DJ Moore highlight because they got into a scuffle, which I loved. They protected Justin Fields. It was a cheap shot. You love to see it. Green Bay just continues to be 30, but the Bears aren't taking it. We saw Tevin Jenkins last year get nasty. We saw DJ Moore and company get nasty. I saw fists flying. It was great. I loved the energy. But from an offensive standpoint, everybody in that room and that coaching staff should be embarrassed. I've said that time and time again. You want to sit here and say, listen, this is our guy. This is our quarterback. You got to show that. Mac Jones yesterday against the Eagles with an actual offensive coordinator looked solid. Looked great. 3 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he looked solid. I'm not upset at Mac Jones whatsoever. Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley, the connection is there. Like, they're on top with Doug Peterson. And right now we have Matt Eberflus, who I said the second they hired him, this guy is just holding the spot for now until Ryan Poles finds a guy he truly believes in. Because I don't think he's the guy. I'm not over-exaggerating. I'm not sitting here saying anything that I haven't told you guys from the beginning. I never really I like the hits concept. I like the mentality and the culture that you're trying to create. But at some point, you got to show me what you know from an X's and O's perspective. If you're hired as the head coach and you're not calling plays on either side of the ball, and both sides of the ball look awful, I question what you do. I question what you're bringing. Matt Eberflus has a lot of questions to answer today. And Luke Getsy has even more. Like, it's someone said, bring in primetime. At this, I mean, if that's how the rest of this season is going to look, why not? Why not? Fuck it, draft his sons too. I don't care. Like, it does, like, I mean, what are we doing? 8 months. 8 months. We sat up here on this live, and if you guys are new here, hit that follow button, because I promise we talk about a lot of positive things over here. But if you're not, and you've been here and you've been a part of the channel, bro, we're positive. We're positive on this side. We're happy. Like, we were so excited about this season. And all that talk, all that is going to be different. All that, man, we got a new regime. Man, let's get it. Like, we're hungry. Justin Fields in the pregame. Man, I was excited on the way here. If you knew that was the game plan, I wouldn't have been excited. I've been like, fuck this. Screen passes? Got me DJ Moore, Robert Tonyan, and Chase Claypool. And screen passes is all we're doing? Oh, man. We got Chase Claypool just wide receiver blocking the entire game at a horrible level. Oh, man. I mean, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, it comes to the point where you just have to answer the questions. You have to answer the questions that you don't want to ask. And right now, Luke Getsy is question number one. Who is this guy? Why is he here? What is he contributing to this offense? Last season, sure, you get a pass. Justin Fields literally broke NFL records, and that was the only reason that – and we got the number 1 overall pick. So that was the only reason that no one said anything about you. But now there's no excuses for it. You need to air out the ball. And some people are going to say, oh, he doesn't trust Justin Fields. Well, we've seen Justin Fields air out the ball before. So that's the problem. If this was a rookie Justin Fields, I'd say maybe there's an argument for that. If we had as much tape on Justin Fields as the Cowboys do with Trey Lance, which is a total of 2.5 games, then I would agree with you. But we've seen Justin Fields air out the ball. We've seen Justin Fields throw the ball deep. There's a lot of different things that went on throughout last season, and I saw positives from Justin Fields. I also saw negatives. I see a guy who throws a lot of touchdowns. I see a guy who throws a lot of interceptions. You know, he's kind of like I could see him throwing 30 touchdowns and 20 interceptions in a season. I guess at this point, that's what I can see. And I'll take the 30 touchdowns. Like, I miss the days of Jay Cutler, because even though Jay threw over 15 picks a year, at least he was throwing you at least 25 tutties. I mean, and airing it out, at least 5 deep balls a game, 3 to 5 deep balls a game. My guy Amin said that in my fantasy chat. Like, what the fuck? At least we saw Mitch air it out. Golly. But you have all these weapons. We talked about it in the preseason was, what did you see from the preseason? And all we saw in the preseason were screen passes and passes under 10 yards. And I kept saying, hey, this is a problem. Like, we need to start seeing them air it out. We saw Tyson Bagent air it out. We saw PJ Walker air it out. We saw a lot of guys airing it out. Nathan Peterman. We saw all these guys throwing the deep ball, but Justin Fields and the first team never really did. And everyone's saying, oh, well, they're just not going to go that hard. They're not going to go as crazy. It's just preseason. Exactly what we saw in those 3 weeks in preseason is exactly what we saw yesterday. Like, there was no difference. There was no disconnect. That was head on preseason week 4. That was the 4th preseason game. That's how they came out, and that's how they played. I mean, that's really what it is. And people are laughing because I said I think Justin Fields can throw 30 touchdowns a year. Yeah, at this point, I'd laugh too after what I saw yesterday. That is absolutely horrendous. And the worst part is like he gets away from the run game. You don't want him to run the ball like he used to. So now you have no identity in this offense. If you're not running the ball with Fields and you're not letting him throw it, what are we doing? Like, there's got to be a conversation. I like what we saw defensively from Tyreek Stevenson, Yannick Ngakoue, Tremaine Edmonds, a couple other guys who really got after it. But, you know, you start to have these conversations like, listen, we traded back just to not get a guy like Jalen Carter, and Jalen Carter just broke NFL rookie records in his first game. Some of the most pressures in the league in every single category. I understand there's reasons why we didn't get Jalen Carter, but don't feed me this line of, oh, we had to beef up the offensive line, and then the offensive line looks absolutely horrendous. It looks like they didn't change anything. It looks like they legitimately just changed jersey numbers into the same group. Like, Darnell Wright didn't look bad. I think Darnell Wright looks pretty solid, but here's the problem. Darnell Wright looked like the best player, and it was his first NFL snap. Cody Whitehair looked lost. Nate Davis was god-awful. Braxton Jones, I mean, golly. But where's Lucas Patrick? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, man, there's just so many questions. So many questions, not enough answers. And going up against the Tampa Bay Bucks, who we expected to go into Tampa this week and get a W. After seeing the connection between Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans yesterday, I think we could lose that game too if we play the way we played today. They still got Chris Godwin. They still have a pretty solid defense. They beat the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are in a much better position than us. They have Jordan Addison. They have Jettas. They have Kirk Cousins. They have Hawk. I mean, we got to get better. We got to get better, and this shit stinks. This shit stinks. It is not looking good. Like, and that's why are we so critical right now? Because here's the thing. I've heard so many people say this. It's just week one. Fuck that. No, it's not. This is so much bigger than just week one. This is literally the staple of what Chicago Bears football has been the last 15 to 20 years. And you just showed us that throughout the entire offseason of saying things were going to change, that nothing's changed. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. That is horrible advertising. You are like the Chicago Bears. I will say one thing. They are the best car salesmen in all of America because they sell me the same shit product every year and tell me it's going to be different. Somebody said yell. I can't. If I start yelling, I'll lose my voice and then we'll be mad. Then I'll be really mad. I'm not losing my voice over Luke Getsy. That's one thing I refuse to do. Jets play the Bills tonight. Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen. That'll be a lot of fun. I went 1-1 in fantasy this week, so that's my only. And thanks to Aaron Jones. Thank you so much. Not much help from Justin Fields, but thank you. But yeah, man, that's really all we got today. It's really all we got today. We don't got too much else to cover. We don't got too much else to talk about. It was just awful. We're about to go live again in a couple minutes. I'm going to stay live on TikTok. So if you're new here, hit that follow button because we're only doing a very short break. We're going to be going live again talking about the Chicago Cubs calling up Pete Crow Armstrong. I'm really excited about that because it's actual positivity are in Chicago right now. Actual news that I can talk about, and we can talk about how good the Chicago Cubs could potentially be with them rather than the Chicago Bears, who bring up talent and bring up amazing prospects and amazing players and just don't use them. But with that being said, I appreciate all you guys for being here. I appreciate all you guys throughout week one. If you're new here, hit that follow button. If you're not, thank you for always rocking with us and always being a part of the community. This is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic from the All Sports All Plays Network. You can follow the All Sports All Plays Network on ASAP Radio, on Apple TV, Roku TV, obviously Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and all social media platforms. Until next week, we go up against Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Peace. Bear down, baby.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.